Welcome to the New Warehouse Podcast, the podcast for those that are curious about what's possible inside their four walls. Before we get into this episode, let's hear a word from our sponsors that make this all possible. In my operations years, it seemed like we were always trying to find more space or we needed a quick storage solution for a special project. That's why when I discovered Palite and their Palite Picks solution, I was excited. Made from ultra-strong engineered honeycomb structured board, these corrugated shelving units can support up to 1,100 pounds. They're definitely stronger than they look, and they come to you flat packed for easy installation in minutes. I've built them and utilized them myself. They provide customizable configurations with up to 400 pick faces. If you need storage quick or you need to maximize space utilization, you need Palite. Check them out at palitegroup.com. That's PALLITE group.com. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're most likely looking to discover the latest innovations in warehousing, logistics, automation, and supply chain. Why not do some of that discovery in person when the Intralogistics Conference and Trade Show hits Dallas on September 16th and 17th. This free show will be at the K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center, and I'm excited to be on the floor to explore cutting-edge technologies, see live product demonstrations, and hear from industry experts. Register for free today at intralogisticsusa.com and join me in Dallas on September 16th and 17th. I'll see you there. Thank you to our sponsors, and now let's get to the podcast.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. Now, in today's episode, we are going to get a little chilly in the middle of summer here. We're going to talk a little bit about frozen fulfillment. I'm going to be joined by Ariane Mary Kemper, who is a co-founder and COO at eGourmet Solutions. So we're going to talk a little bit about their operations. We're going to talk a little bit about what they do, and we're also going to learn about how they approach frozen fulfillment, which is their specialty. And we're also going to dive into some of the technology side. They have their own system, which has a very clever name, I will say, and I'll leave that as a tease for later as we talk about that. But very interested to dive into this and learn a little bit about how they're approaching frozen fulfillment, how they got into it, and all of those things. So Ariane, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you, Kevin. Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to get you on here. We met at Manifest earlier this year, and it was a pleasure to chat with you there a little bit. So I'm happy we could get you on the podcast now and learn a little bit about your business. So why don't we kick it off and start there? Kind of give us just a brief overview of what eGourmet Solutions is, and also you're the co-founder, right? So maybe tell us a little bit about why'd you start this business?
So eGourmet is a cold chain 3PL specializing in distribution of frozen refrigerated foods and nutraceuticals. We started 20 years ago, more or less by accident, as these things happen.
Sure.
And today have 5 locations across the U.S. We hit 80% of the U.S. population in a day, 100% in 2 days. And we are omni-channel. So we do B2B, D2C, Amazon, Walmart, Costco, influencer kits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, very interesting. And so you said this kind of happened on accident, right? So tell us a little bit about how'd you get into this, and like what was your background, and what kind of led you to start this company, or I guess have this accident 20 years ago, right?
So my background is I was working for Pfizer,
Okay,
in New York City, and in marketing, and decided in 2003 to start a chain of frozen food only retail stores modeled after, there are some French stores. One is called Picard.
Sure.
Has over 1,000 stores all over France, and they sell only frozen foods. And in Europe, frozen foods went the way of high-end, very exclusive foods, whereas the U.S. went the way of, Hungry Man and kind of downscale.
TV dinners, yeah.
TV dinners, yeah. So it's very different. And the foods in France are absolutely incredible, what you can buy. So we decided to kind of launch that concept in New York. We launched 2 stores, and in 2004, when the internet was in the very, very, very early stages, we put up a website. And Shopify was not around at the time, so we didn't know how to block certain sites, and started getting orders for California and Colorado and other across the U.S. So we went and got coolers, went and got dry ice, and we started shipping our products. And it kind of took off. It was just us and Omaha Steaks. That was it back then, doing any kind of shipping at all. And then the sales of that overtook the store, the brick and mortar. So we decided to, the funny story is we asked our UPS rep, where do we have to be to ship 1 to 3 day ground across the U.S.? And he came back and said Kansas City. And a month later, we picked up and moved and opened our warehouse in Kansas City. That was our first one. Yeah. And focused only on the D2C side of our frozen food store. And then we had plenty of freezer space here. It was cheap. And people started asking us to ship for them. So we spun off the logistics part into eGourmet Solutions and started taking on clients. The idea, of course, was to get volume and lower our own costs, right, for our own brand. But that took off. And so we kind of felt like we had to choose. We couldn't do both. So we closed the food business and focused exclusively on logistics.
Interesting. And so I'm curious there, because you at Pfizer, right, focused on like pharmaceutical stuff, and then to gourmet food, like what was that? Just kind of like a passion thing that you were very interested in, or what was kind of the connection there?
I love to eat and I hate to cook.
Okay. I think a lot of people are like that, right? So
yeah. Good, yeah. I remember going to a friend's house in Paris, and she invited us to dinner at the last minute.
Sure.
And she starts whipping a leg of lamb fully already, with herbs and everything on it. She pulls out, I don't know, some other vegetable dish and these little mashed potato pellets. Yeah. From the freezer, and dinner was done in 25 minutes. And I was just like, oh my God, I want that. I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good, really good.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And that is like very interesting too, as you talked about, because it's like, all right, in the US, right, it is like frozen dinners are kind of like, kind of
bad rap.
Yeah, like frowned upon a little bit, but it's very interesting that spectrum there. But that led you to now what you have, eGourmet Solutions, on just handling kind of the logistics side for frozen food companies or nutraceuticals, as you mentioned earlier. So now tell us a little bit about, like, because you're very early in 2004-ish, right, to be doing something like this, right? I mean, obviously cold chain in itself and the big wholesale and bulk orders and things like that has been around for some time, but even just D2C itself in 2004 was very early too as well, right? So tell us a little bit about when this started taking off, like what were some of the kind of early learnings from like just an operations perspective of like, oh, we need to do this or we need to do that. Cause it's one thing to figure it out when you're just dealing with like ambient, but when you're adding the additional complexity of frozen, there's other things to consider. So tell us a little bit about some of the early learnings, because, I have to imagine like you were one of the first doing this essentially, right?
I think the biggest challenge we had at the time was, everything we do is based on time in transit, right? So you have to refrigerate or ice the product based on the time in transit, and getting that data from FedEx and UPS systematically so that we could calculate how much ice to put in the order. I remember that was a big discussion with the FedEx and UPS techs, because at the time in transit didn't really matter. I mean, things took a week, and if you wanted it there fast, you could do FedEx Express, and it was an envelope. And so I think that was probably the biggest challenge that we had. And of course, we were buying styrofoam coolers because that was the only insulation available at the time.
Sure. Yeah.
And people were scared of dry ice. They weren't used to getting. Now, most people have received frozen deliveries, so they're kind of used to dry ice and what to do with it when they get it. Back in 2003, it was still, new, and people would be like, "Oh my God, what do I do?"
Yeah. It was just for Halloween decorations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Very interesting, and very interesting point there about the kind of transit times, because I mean, as we know now, right, in our everyday lives, like, speed is, whether it's frozen or not, like speed is everything, right? And back then, like, I am thinking back to that, I'm like, oh yeah, like I got some stuff off eBay or something, and it took a week, like 10 days, like that was normal, right? And nobody was,
and oftentimes you didn't know when it was going to arrive.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, like
they weren't sending you texts and emails going, oh, it's out for delivery, none of that was around.
Yeah, absolutely. So now tell us a little bit about kind of the operations now, right? Because you started with this location in Kansas City, and then you mentioned you got 5 locations across the country now, right? But from a D2C perspective, I mean, I've seen some freezers in warehouses before, but mostly like bulk storage. But from a D2C perspective, you're breaking it down into each's units, right? So how does that look operationally? Do you do that pick and pack in the freezer? Does it come outside of the freezer? How does that look from like an operational process flow?
So our DNA is D2C, right? We've branched out into B2B and pallet in, pallet out, and so forth, which we consider a lot easier than the D2C portion.
Sure, yeah.
But we pick eaches, we pick units, we'll pick ribeye steaks, we'll pick, a little box of cupcakes or what have you. We pick exclusively in the freezer, and the product stays in the freezer until it's ready to pack. And the reason is that there are food safety concerns if you pull product out of the freezer, stage it in a cooler. Even if the cooler is at 32, that product will eventually thaw.
Yeah.
And if you don't ship it out, and you put it back, like we've onboarded customers who were at other places that were pulling it out. The food was thawing. They would put it back in the freezer at the end of the day and then pull it back out the next day. And by then the texture, the consistency of the product changes. And then, of course, you've got, the risk of bacteria and other food safety issues that can happen. So our clients from the very start were very food safety concerned and really held that bar very high for us, which in retrospect was great, because it was a great learning curve for us to work with billion-dollar companies that are like, no, you need to do this and you need to do that. And this has to be like this, because, we were a startup back then.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, it's like a very interesting thing, because it is when you're trying to figure it all out, and then you're like you said, you're working with these billion-dollar companies, right, that have figured it out in the past. Like it can be a little, challenging, right? But at the same time, they're pushing you to kind of excellence, right? They're pushing you to like the standard you need to be at, which is a good thing to have. So now, you've been at it for 20 years now, as you mentioned, right? So obviously the landscape of D2C in general and 3PLs in general has changed quite dramatically since back then, right? So tell us, like, what is kind of your take when you look at the 3PL market right now, and specifically around like frozen fulfillment? I mean, what is kind of your view of the industry as a whole?
I think it's very different, obviously, than it was. COVID made it very different. I think we all quadrupled in size, in 2020, March of 2020. I think consumers are much more comfortable ordering frozen foods now. I think the quality of frozen foods has increased significantly. So people are more interested in frozen foods because there's a longer shelf life and because it is easier to prepare, and less stressful than refrigerated, where you have to worry about, is it good when it was delivered? Was it at the right temperature when it was delivered, et cetera. So I think the opportunities have just continued since COVID. Like, it's just been a constant, up in volume and opportunities and people interested in getting their stuff on D2C. At the same time, omnichannel has also really opened up a lot of doors. So today, I think brands have to do all of it. You can't just be exclusively one or the other. You have to be online. You've got to be in Amazon. You've got to be in Walmart. You've got to be in Costco. You have to have your Shopify. You have to be in retail. You've got to do it all. And I think that's very different than it was 20 years ago, when brands were either retail or D2C, but very rarely both.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's interesting to see kind of that evolution. And I'm curious, like, have you seen, as the logistics side of it has improved, right? Like you talked about, like, early days just trying to figure out transit times. And obviously that's much more dialed in now than it was back then, right? As that has kind of improved over time, have you seen that has made it easier for more like D2C kind of native brands to start to pop up that are doing like frozen or refrigerated type of products? Does that kind of make it easy for them to enter the market, or easier for them to enter the market?
It's certainly easier.
Yeah.
I would say that the direct to consumer only still has a high barrier to entry.
Okay.
It really depends on the amount of your shopping basket, right? So if you sell $5 widgets, you can't ship perishables.
Yeah.
The economics aren't there. But if you can get it to $100, $120, $150, then yeah, it's definitely easier today than it was. It's definitely less costly than it was, 10 years ago even.
Yeah.
So the costs are going down, not only because materials have improved, but the time in transit is faster, so there's less refrigerant required. But it's a trade-off. It's a challenge for a new brand. It's definitely not an easy decision. And I think a lot of them think, oh, I'll just put up my Shopify and I'll start shipping.
Sure.
It doesn't work like that. It used to work like that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you would get sales because there was nobody online, or 15 years ago.
Yeah. And now there's tons of competition. Yeah.
Tons of competition.
Yeah.
So you really have to have the finances to do it properly, not only for your marketing, but for your inventory. If you want to pay less for fulfillment, you have to be in multiple locations.
So I'm curious, like, for that, I mean, for anybody that's like thinking about starting specifically, a product that needs temperature control or frozen or refrigerated, I mean, what would be like your number one kind of piece of cautious advice? Like, here's something like that most people are not considering when they're starting a product or a brand that is like in that space, that you often see as like a misstep? What would be kind of your advice there?
I would lean towards standardization as opposed to customization. So, the fewer picks are expensive, right? So if you can limit the number of picks and require people to buy a case of 8, then it's going to be a lot less expensive. Make sure you hit $120, $150. The higher, the better in terms of shopping cart, and, limit your SKUs. You can't have 100 SKUs and be profitable.
Yeah.
If you don't have the volume. So you really need to, have 2 or 3, your high movers, focus on those. You can have LTOs that come out every once in a while to get some variety and some noise around your brand, but limit the SKUs, keep your inventory tight, long shelf life. You don't want your stuff to expire in 6 months because you don't have the volume for that yet. So I'd say that those would probably be the things that I would, and max out our coolers. Right. So that's another thing. Like if you don't, the cavity in that cooler has a cost, whether you fill it up or not. So it behooves you to fill it up. And so design your offering so that it maxes out the space in that cooler and you are really making as much money as you can out of that shipment.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's good advice. And when you say the cooler, you're talking about the package it's shipping.
The insulated liner.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I think, good advice there for sure, because I think that is one thing too, where it's like, okay, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to do that. And now all of a sudden you got all these products, all this mix, and, sometimes there's no cohesiveness there. And how does it all come together? And like you said, then some of it expires, it doesn't work out or it doesn't fit well together. And you're using multiple boxes and all these costs start to spiral out of control. Right.
Exactly.
So great advice there. So now let's talk a little bit about the operation side a little more, right? Because I did see that you are a process improvement wizard, it says on your LinkedIn there. So I'm very curious about like how, over time, right? Because, you were dealing in pharmaceuticals, right, in your career at Pfizer, right? And then, went on to pursue this food business, right? And then figure out the logistics side of everything, right? So tell us a little bit about kind of like, how did you get into this process improvement? And I'm guessing some of it was from necessity over time, right? Like, but tell us a little bit about like, how did you start kind of looking at the operations and start to kind of realize like, oh, we can improve this, we can improve that. Like, how did that side of your brain start to unlock as to become this process improvement wizard?
Like you said, it's necessity. I think I was born with a very practical side, and maybe even a lazy side. Like I don't want to do more than I absolutely have to get the result that I want. And so, when I've used that in my life forever. So, we redesigned our kitchen, and I think I can say that my kitchen is the most efficient kitchen ever. You will not expend more energy than you need to do anything in my kitchen.
Okay. I like that.
And I do that in I think it just intuitively in everything that I do. So when I took over operations, it was just kind of, well, why are we doing that there? You're walking an extra 10 minutes, why does nobody know where the tape guns are? Like, what are you guys wasting your time looking for tape guns? And, so it just sort of, I guess, developed from there.
Yeah.
And efficiency is really something I look at now, and I'm just like, not working. Got to change that. It's like become second nature now. And it's fun. It's fun to do. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it too myself. I absolutely love it. And I think I liken it to kind of like the opening of like a third eye almost, right?
Yes.
It's like all of a sudden everything you're looking at, you're like, oh, waste, there's waste there. Like we can cut that, or we should move that, or we should do this type of thing. But I got to ask you, because this sounds like this was maybe a sticking point. You mentioned the tape guns disappearing, yes. Right? And I've had experience with that too. Like tape guns, box cutters, like can never find them, right? So I got to ask, what was your solution for the tape guns?
Discipline.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
You gotta, people need to put things back where they belong.
I see. So did you like assign them to the person or something like that one? Yeah.
They're assigned a spot based on where they're needed. So there's a lot of them, right? So you need to have enough that people aren't wandering the warehouse with their tape gun because they need it somewhere else.
Sure.
So you need to think about where you put them and have a place where they are put, and that's clear to everybody, like dummy proof.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right.
And you just hold people accountable, and they know when I go out on the warehouse. They know.
Yeah. I think that that's a good point there, like on the kind of making sure there's enough too, right? To be able to do that. Because if there's like a scarcity of resources or tools, then people tend to like,
and people hoard.
Yeah. They kind of like covet the item almost. Right. And it's like, oh, like this was my tape gun. Like I like this, even though it's the same tape gun.
And they're the tools of their trade.
Yeah.
It's the tools of their trade. And I think people really, I firmly believe, after doing this for so long, that people really want to work. People really want to do a good job, which is why they're going to hoard that tape gun if there aren't that many, is because they need it to do their job and they want to do their job. And so they're going to hang on to that tape gun. So I think you just need to inspire trust, and say, okay, yes, I know you want to do your job, but this is how we're going to do it. And everybody has to play by the same rules. And people who don't want to play by the rules don't belong. And,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. And I think that is such a good thing, because it is, I believe the same thing, and I've seen the same thing in my experience, that the majority of people, like, they do want to do the work. And then when the tool is not there, the tool is not working, it's incredibly frustrating for them. Like it throws off that workflow, and then it throws off the productivity, and everything just kind of, comes a little disarray for them or those that they're working with too as well. So
well, then they quit.
Yeah.
They're usually the good ones, and they usually quit.
Yeah, absolutely.
They can't do their job properly, so they leave. And you don't want those people to quit.
Yeah, we don't want them. Definitely. So very good tips there. And now tell us a little bit about, from the technology perspective, because you all have your own system. I saw that you've kind of developed, which very clever name, Frost, right? It's an acronym for.
You know what it stands for?
I don't. You can tell us what it stands for, and tell us all about it. And I'm very curious too. I mean, obviously there's a ton of systems out there in the market, right? So I'm very curious, like, why develop your own in-house too as well? So
Frost stands for Frozen and Refrigerated Operating System Technology.
Love it.
Clever name that my colleague Emily came up with.
Yes. Kudos to Emily.
Yeah. And so it's a tech stack. So we use some software from Tech Dynamics.
Okay.
As well as some software from Extensive. And we've layered on some of our own in-house software. So it's kind of a blend of all of it. And it essentially aggregates all of that data and everything in one place. So our clients have one portal that they can go to get what they need done. And the data is clean and standardized, and there are checks and balances in the software that makes sure that everything is accurate and correct. And we also have a control panel, which is really cool. Our team is about to launch it next week. That is, our clients can build widgets with any of the data that we have. And those widgets could be, when I log in, I want to see how many back orders I have. And that's a widget. And the widgets, you can make them big, you can make them small, you can move them anywhere you want on the screen, and you can color code them. So if it's 0, it's green. If it's 1, it's red. It could be a pie chart. It could be a line chart. It could be just a number. It could be a table. And any data we have, they can build a widget around. They can see how many open orders they have. They can see how many SKUs are going to expire within the next, 45 days. They can see weeks on hand. If any SKU has more than 4 weeks on hand, you can have a flag saying, hey, you've got 3 SKUs with, more than 4 weeks on hand. Because there's a lot of data out there now, right? It's all about data. Everybody's running around trying to get all this data.
Yeah.
But part of the problem, A, is it's not clean. It's not standardized, right? It's not verified. And 2, you can't expect your brands to dig through that data. There's too much of it.
Yeah.
Where do you even start? So sure, it's nice to look at your inventory spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But it's going to take you an hour and a half to identify what the problems are. And at the end of the day, that's what they want to know is, what are my problems, right? Like, what don't I have enough of? What do I have too much of? What's going to expire tomorrow? What's damaged, et cetera. And so our goal is to serve up that data so that they're not wasting their time. So if there are no back orders, it's 0, they can move on. They don't have to worry about that. If there's nothing expiring in the next 45 days, they can move on to something else. The data is there. So if they still want to look at their table and dig into the numbers, of course they can. It's there. But we try to present it in a way that's actionable for them. And again, they can customize it all. So they can build all kinds of widgets about anything, any data we have. How many orders did Kevin place so far this year could be a widget. Any data we have, you can kind of create a widget around.
That's pretty cool. And I like that because I think that, I'm sure every client that you have, they care about different things, right? So the ability for them to be able to kind of customize, what they want their control panel to look like, or like you said, what matters to them most. Like, if it's Kevin's orders that they're very concerned about, then sure, they can check my orders on a daily basis, right? But I like that, and I think that makes so much sense to do that. I'm curious, like, from the beginning to now. How have you seen the technology kind of evolve? And I guess, like, what maybe has become easier because of the technology, and even, maybe are there things that have become a little more challenging because of the technology too as well?
Everything's become easier.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single thing that's harder.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that we have always been more on the boutique side of fulfillment. So, if you kind of look at the 3PL market, you have what we call providers and partners, right? And providers will provide the labor, they'll provide the storage. They're typically going to be very high volume, very standardized. You provide your materials, you're buying labor and storage, essentially. Well, we're much more on the partnership side, right? So we have 8 different package sizes. We'll customize just about anything you want. And the reason we do that, that's because that's what we needed when we started, right? When we were doing our own brand, we wanted customizations of everything. And so we kind of developed that and offered it to our clients. And it sort of stayed in our DNA. And so the reports that they get today in those widgets, many of them we were providing before. Maybe not every day, but once a week, or, if there had 3 back orders, we would flag them with an email. Hey, you've got 3 back orders. You need to look at these. And now that's been automated. So it's certainly made us much faster and more nimble. than before.
Interesting. And are you doing some of that automation and stuff? And I mean, maybe even the control panel that you're talking about, is that kind of AI generated using that? Yeah. How has bringing like AI into the organization, I mean, how has it been like cautious to bring that in, or have you kind of like fully embraced it? What does that look like from like the change
We've embraced
perspective?
it 100%.
Yeah. Big time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. And I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So you're a big fan.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh.
Anything we can do to automate, our industry is quite repetitive in many ways. You know, there's a lot of processes that are repetitive that I think can stand to be improved. There's a lot of, like I said, a lot of data that people look at that is there, but they don't have the time to look at it. They don't know what they're looking for. So I think there's tons of efficiencies, both internal for our own purposes as well as our clients' purposes.
Yeah. And I think there's still so much to uncover there too, on like the capabilities and the possibilities for sure. And I'm curious, as we kind of think about that, and specifically in regards to like the frozen fulfillment market, I mean, where do you kind of see the industry heading, right? Because as you mentioned, like in order for it to be viable for a brand or someone that's shipping that type of product, right? Like the cart needs to be pretty high. I mean, do you see where technology can help it get to where maybe the cart doesn't need to be that high? There's still a lot of like evolution that can happen. Where do you think the kind of frozen fulfillment market is heading?
I think there's a lot of research being done on packaging, improving insulation, lowering costs. There's plenty of people coming out with new liners, mine will do better than everyone else's, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
And they are improvements. I wouldn't say they're leaps and bounds, but they are little improvements, but they do add up. I think, to be honest, transportation to me is the biggest cost and where I think you have the lowest hanging fruit. So if you can lower those costs, including freight, I think freight, the amount of money our clients spend on trucking product left and right is absolutely astounding.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge opportunity in that industry to be more efficient.
Interesting.
Half the trucks we get aren't full.
So just better utilization.
Oh yeah. And some of them don't have temp logs that you can access, like there's so much low tech and waste in that industry that I think if you can lower that cost, then it matters, because moving, 2 pallets, 3 pallets of product is expensive for a small business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, I mean, do you use any, because we've had some companies on the podcast before that have like these different trackers and things that can, sense if temperature goes down or anything. Do you utilize some of that stuff for your clients?
Yes. Many of our clients use them. Yeah.
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 Okay.
But in my opinion, that should be provided by the trucking company.
Yeah.
You're the one guaranteeing that my products are going to stay frozen. Well, you should be the one proving to me that they are.
Yeah. They should just be giving that visibility automatically, basically, is what you're saying. Yeah.
And I should know where my product is at all times. I should know where my pallets are. So I kind of feel like that industry is going to be changing. Somebody's going to come in and disrupt a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if you're listening and you're looking for something to disrupt, there you go.
I crystal ball.
Definitely. I think very interesting thoughts there. And I agree too. I mean, the technology is there, right? So I think it just needs to be applied more widespread. It needs to become a little more standardized across the industry, right? And I think that'll be helpful for all, for sure. So really appreciate the conversation today. It was great to talk to you, learn more about eGourmet solutions and how to resolve the tape gun disappearing too as well. I really enjoyed that part of the conversation, but appreciate you coming on the show. And if people want to to learn more about eGourmet Solutions or they want to connect, what's the best way to find out more?
Our website, eGourmet.com. And from there, you have phone numbers and links to emails that you can send to contact us.
All right. Fantastic. And we'll definitely...
Or LinkedIn. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn, so happy
Sure. The process improvement wizard on LinkedIn. Yes, definitely. So we'll definitely put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes here so people can find it easily. So thank you very much for your time on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.